YouTube, welcome to my channel, Taylor Talks Tales. Today I have a book review for you. It's not on the reddening, that one is coming up tomorrow, just because I have a lot going on today and I will not be able to quite finish it. But in order to celebrate my 1 week YouTube anniversary, because I've officially been on YouTube for a week now, I still wanted to get you guys a video, so I decided to do a book review on a book that I really enjoy that I think is just criminally underrated. I think there are maybe two reviews of this book on YouTube, and I think more people should go out and read this book because I really enjoyed it. And that book is FantasticLand by Bockoven. I'm going to read the back and then we're going to just jump right on in because this book is a ride. Since the 1970s, FantasticLand has been the theme park where fun is guaranteed. But when a hurricane ravages the Florida coast and isolates the park, the employees find it anything but fun. 5 weeks later, the authorities who rescue the survivors encounter a scene of horror. Photos soon emerge online of heads on spikes outside of rides, and viscera and human bones littering the gift shops, breaking records for hits, views, likes, clicks, and shares. How could a group of survivors, mostly teenagers, commit such terrible acts? Presented as a fact-finding investigation and a series of first-person interviews, FantasticLand pieces together the grisly series of events. Cut off from the world and left on their own, the teenagers soon form rival tribes who viciously compete for food, medicine, social dominance, and even human flesh. This new social network divides the ravaged dreamland into territories ruled by the pirates, shop girls, freaks, and mole people. If meticulously curated online personas can replace private identities, what takes over when those constructs are lost? Alright. This book, simply put, is fantastic. It was everything I wanted it to be, and in fact, it was even better than I was expecting. I just picked it up because there's a Goodreads reviewer that I really like a lot. Her name's Karen. She enjoyed it and had mentioned it, and then I thought, alright, I'm gonna pick this up. So I checked out the library and just started reading it, and I could not put it down. It just sucked me in right away. So it's told in, basically there are 23 parts of this book, 23 interviews, everything from the leading investigative journalist to people at the park. There's, towards the beginning, there's an interview based off of somebody who had left, because there are some people who left the park. So basically, there's a Category 5 hurricane that is coming directly towards the Florida coast. And the park gets evacuated and the areas get evacuated, except for this park was built to withstand anything. It's supposed to be, you can't get flooded, it can't, it's basically like a super shelter. And they evacuated most of the people, but there are about 300 employees that stayed behind because, for various reasons, money, housing, who knows, but the park owner was really big on, I want you guys, somebody has to stay at the park and watch it, and do repairs and do all these things. We're going to pay you money, all of that stuff, and you're going to be safe. It's basically like a bomb shelter, like super just resource heavy and safe from all the elements. And what ends up happening is these 300 people, basically the skeleton crew of the amusement park, stay behind, everybody else leaves. And so the hurricane hits. And it's much more intense than anyone predicted. It was a Category 5. It just destroyed everything, and there's heavy floodings that nobody predicted. And that flooding ends up cutting off FantasticLand from anywhere. And then things just start going crazy right away. The first couple nights, things are pretty rough because the kid ends up dying because he didn't have access to his inhaler. Also, something with the park was that all the employees had to relinquish their cell phones and electronic devices, so nobody has a cell phone. Not that it would probably work, you never know, but during this disaster situation, they're cut off. And there's not really good leadership because a lot of the older employees, they aren't really stepping up and taking charge in a way that they should be. So a lot of these basically because they're mainly older teenagers and college students. So everyone's ranging from probably about 17 to maybe 23, 24 is the bulk of the people in this age group. So they're young. They're not little kids, but a lot of them have just started college or just figuring things out, so they don't have a lot of life experience. And the fact that the leaders, there really aren't any leaders, allows it for several of these strong personalities to kind of come through, and then stuff happens. Especially when the boy dies, because he didn't have his inhaler. That was the first death, and it kind of crescendos and gets just bigger and bigger. There's this kid who ends up basically getting severely injured to the point that there was nothing they could do for him, so then there's a mercy killing, and then things just start to escalate from there. And what's really cool about this is that you get introduced to the characters, and a lot of times you'll see and hear about a character in one interview, and then a couple of interviews later they come in. And I think that is the strength of this book, because it really is very character driven, and I really liked that. And especially too, every single character in these interviews is unreliable. Every single one, because they're trying to remember these events. A lot of them don't have the full picture, and the interviews paint the full picture, but each individual person doesn't. And there's like one interview where this one guy insists, I did not do this, and then several of the other interviews insist, yeah, the guy did this, so it automatically makes him seem more suspect. And then like the main kind of antagonist of this book, it's really interesting to see his take on things and his beliefs and all that. And it's just really, really cool the way it does that. I really liked it a lot. Oh yeah, it was so good. I could probably compare this to World War Z, except for the fact that, controversial opinion, but I actually liked this book better than World War Z. I enjoyed World War Z, it's important to the zombie genre, but the way things came together with this, it just really felt like, it felt very real at times. Even though I know some of the criticisms of this are people wouldn't go crazy like this, I actually disagree with that. I think the one unrealistic thing in the book for me is just the fact that people stayed behind. But it was supposed to be like this big super shelter, and they would have food for months and months and medical supplies and just everything. It was supposed to be this flawless plan, and then the flooding happened, because what ends up happening is everybody is stuck at FantasticLand for like 5 or 6 weeks. Like, it's weeks and weeks. And the first couple of days things are fine, and then things start to descend into chaos. And since I'm someone who does a lot of natural disaster research, and it's just an interest of mine, it's not far-fetched to say that human beings, we have an inherent need to survive. We want to survive at the expense of others a lot of times. And I mean, really, there's a saying that like people are 3 square meals away from rioting, and when you look at history, there's a lot of instances of mobs and riots and violence when resources are scarce. Thing is, resources weren't necessarily scarce in this, but the distribution of everything was messed up, and authority was messed up, and then everyone just descends into these cliques, because basically the park has 7 different sections, and people become very territorial, and I don't think that's far-fetched. And I'm not saying that humanity is awful, I'm just saying at our hearts, it's, you know, it's not necessarily a good versus evil, it's more just this complicated thing, and people band together because that's what people do, and violence does happen. And, you know, I think maybe they could have hung on a couple of days, but being isolated for 6 weeks when you're young and have no idea what's going on and you haven't really cared for yourself before, you know, I think the conditions were ripe for something crazy to happen like this. Another thing that I really found interesting and loved was, so the names of all the groups. There's the shop girls, the pirates, the fairies, which kind of end up becoming part of the pirates, the freaks, the mole people, Deadpools, and robots. And I just thought that was like really funny because it's based off of the different parts of FantasticLand. And yeah, and I think that added a lot of fun and entertainment to it. And yeah, it was very unique. I really enjoyed it, and I actually think, so I tend not to be super into audiobooks. For whatever reason, it's sort of hard unless I'm going on a big road trip or doing something. I usually prefer to sit down and read a book, or if I'm out and about and driving, I usually like to listen to music, or maybe I've recently gotten more into podcasts. But I think this would be a fantastic audiobook. I think, especially if you got a big cast of characters doing the voices, it would be amazing, because it would really add to that sort of not necessarily found footage, but the mockumentary, documentary type feel to it, which was really good in this. The voices are all distinct, all unique, and I really liked that. So I'm kind of interested in picking up the audiobook. I don't know how it's set up, if it's only one or two narrators, but I think it would be really neat. I also think, and usually I don't tend to like it when a favorite book of mine gets adapted into a series or a movie, because I always get really worried and stressed that they're gonna blow it up and it's gonna be awful. This would make a fantastic miniseries or movie. Probably a miniseries. In fact, you could even go through each interview, and then you would have 23 episodes of the series, so a couple of seasons. I wouldn't stretch it out too much, but I think there's a lot of potential in this, and it's just really, really good. So underrated, and it's really, really fast-paced. It's like only 310 pages or something like that, and you just blow through it. It's really hard to put down, and it just seeing the perspectives of everyone and how things aren't necessarily as they seem. There's implied cannibalism, but did it actually happen? Did this happen? Did that happen? What was really going on? Which I also really thought was cool. And there's like a couple elements too that don't get resolved, which I know irritated a couple of people, but it's not like it's left on a cliffhanger. It's just, this is going to be a mystery we're never going to solve, because a lot of times when things happen, you just never know, and you get to speculate, and I love speculating about things. So overall, I give this 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed the heck out of it first and second time through, because it's the most well done book that's told in a series of interviews, I think, at least in this genre. It really paints this just creepy, freaky atmosphere and this situation, and you just kind of puzzle through, and reading it a second time you get to see a lot more that you've missed the first time, and it's just great. And I think this is an excellent summer read, because I always associate amusement parks with summertime. First time I read this was like April of 2018, and then I read it again over the summer, this summer. So I think it's a good summer horror read, or something like that. Or if a hurricane's coming your way, if you live in the South, read this. Make sure you don't stay behind during any kind of natural disaster. Evacuate and get the heck out of there. I would have done that. If I heard that a hurricane was coming, you couldn't pay me $1 million to stay behind. I would be way out of there. But anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. Sorry it was a little long, but I just really want to promote this book. It's great. It's exciting and fun. Just, you may have to suspend disbelief on a couple of things, but overall it's totally worth it, engaging, enjoyable. So thank you so much. And I'll be having the review of The Reddening up probably tomorrow, and then at some point I want to do, if I hit 100 subscribers, I want to do some kind of little fun giveaway type situation. So anyway, thank you so much. Please comment, rate, subscribe. If you've read FantasticLand, please let me know what you thought of it. And if you have any book requests, I would love to hear those, and I can do any kind of review or anything like that. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, happy reading, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.